I just try to add a little bit to what has already been said. I'm quite impressed what has already been mentioned before, and I agree to all the statements. Maybe I can give a little bit the German perspective, being from GIZ, the implementing agency of the government of Germany, working here in India, also in the green energy corridors and in the field of solar rooftop. In Germany, we now have closely to 100 gigawatt of renewables generation capacity, roughly maybe 40 gigawatt of solar and something like 50 gigawatt of wind, the rest a little bit of biomass, etc. But this is, of course, only generation capacity, so one should actually distinguish between the gigawatts of capacity and the terawatts which actually go into the grid by way of electricity. So the share of renewables in the generation capacity in Germany is almost as much as we are actually having in demand. So our demand peak is about 90 gigawatt, 90 to 100. So we have sometimes really days where the renewables can make up for the entire demand, which is rare. I mean, that happens maybe once or twice in a year, but principally you can say that about 1/3 of the electricity in our electricity mix comes from renewables nowadays. So if you look at India's plans, having 175 gigawatt by 2022 as per the targets, that would be perhaps something like generation capacity of 25% or so of the total, but the electricity mix still will not be reflected by that generation capacity. Presently, I think you have about 13% or to 15% of renewable energy generation capacity, but only 5 to 7% is actually part of the electricity mix. So one should not, let's say, also overestimate the impact of the renewables into the grid by seeing those generation numbers. In Germany, so far, we don't have any utility scale storage, simply because it's too costly. The buzzword is flexibility, and everything is about flexibility. And the efforts made there are, I would say, quite impressive. Our thermal power plants can ramp up and down quite fast. We have power plants which can ramp up or down within 15 minutes from, let's say, 50% to 90% of the plant load factor. And some plants also can operate way below that, like 25%, 30%. This, of course, has an impact on the wear and tear of the plants, no doubt about that. We'll talk a little bit on the costs later. But so far we can manage quite well. Recently, one company has installed 90 megawatt of battery storage, but for a completely different purpose. That storage is used to provide a primary control. That makes perfectly sense. While you get, let's say, 30 euros per megawatt in the spot market, on average, you get 3,000 euros per megawatt if you make it available for primary control. And then, of course, the huge investment into this battery storage made perfectly sense for that company. With this 90 megawatt, they actually bought the entire primary control market. They are like a monopolist now in that. But this, I would say, made perfectly sense. It also makes sense now for the owners of rooftop solar power to look into storage, because the price is coming down, definitely, and for them also slowly, it may make sense in their own business plan. But so far in Germany, no one is considering utility scale storage yet. And I would say also the same can and will happen here. We should leave that to the market. The market works very well. The market forces are at play, and as KVS Baba also rightly said, everyone is open for innovation, and it definitely will come. But I don't see actually a need for, let's say, a policy intervention to put a lot of money into utility scale storage now. I think that money can be spent much better in India on other issues, even for building up more generation capacity. Coming to the cost part, I really see this decrease of the prices through the recent solar auctions with two eyes. One eye is, yes, it's good, it looks promising and it's a great success, but on the other hand, I'm a little bit worried also, because the expectation is there that bringing in more renewables, it will just decrease the cost. But what we forget about it is that there is cost to the system, and we need to have a provision to cover those system costs, which means there is increased demand for balancing, and this has to be paid for. Or in future, definitely the future belongs to the DSO, as Kevias Baba already said. But for that, the discoms, they have to spend money in their infrastructure, and the present situation doesn't allow them. And I think here we really need to emphasize why we are going for renewables, why actually we are going for that system transformation. The reason is that it actually benefits all of us by bringing down CO2 emissions, by reducing pollution, etc. But these are also benefits which so far are not accosted. And the thermal power plants, they are also not having any cost provision for polluting or for CO2 emissions. It's all socialized, or the economists say these are externalities. And now for the renewables also, it is expected that somehow all these benefits are not accosted for. So one just looks at the pure cost of generation. And I think this needs to change. People need to understand that having these benefits also, one needs to pay for it. They cannot just be socialized, and if that understanding actually percolates into the society, and if people actually get a will to pay for these, I think then we can get the best energy system we can dream of. Having said that, I think we still need to have some time for discussions also, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Markus. Thank you for keeping time. Thank you.